Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks provides unique mentoring opportunities to enhance your modeling skills by connecting with talented modelers and manufacturers from around the globe who generously share their knowledge and artistic expertise. Build your confidence, refine modeling techniques, and share your projects with a supportive community of fellow modelers, all while enjoying the world's most rewarding hobby. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom and YouTube for our free live program. Missed a program? No problem. Individual show segments are uploaded to YouTube for convenient on-demand viewing. Be sure to connect with the New Tracks community by joining the New Tracks Facebook page where you can interact with other modelers and see what they are modeling. Visit our website at www.newtracksmodeling.com, where you'll find information about upcoming events and the latest issue of our magazine, New Tracks Modeler. New Tracks Modeler features articles from builds on the show, exciting new products, and other great articles. And now, here is the host of New Tracks Modeling, Tom Farrell.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to New Tracks Modeling, the live Zoom and YouTube show that airs every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. This evening, I'm broadcasting live from 29 Palms, California, a Marine base in the middle of the desert. This is the current location of my son, Dr. Sean Farrell, a periodontist in the U.S. Navy. This is considered a hardship billet, very close to what life on Mars would be like, literally, in many ways. But I digress. Let's get back on the track. Tonight's broadcast is part of a growing platform founded by Jim Kello. Jim Kello founded New Tracks Modeling to build a supportive and educational community where mentors help modelers improve their modeling skills. New Tracks Modeling extends beyond this live program. We're proud to support an active Facebook group, a dedicated website, and our widely acclaimed New Tracks Modeler digital magazine, which now reaches over 10,000 subscribers. On that note, if you haven't received the magazine, in our first mailing, went out 6,000 subscribers yesterday. The balance will be sent after the show. So hold on, you'll get your copy. We're also excited to continue growing the New Tracks Modeling Scholarship Program, an initiative you'll learn more about later in the show. Stay tuned as we evolve, offering even more in-depth articles, expert tips, and inspiring stories, all designed to support and celebrate the model railroading hobby we share. Everything we do is completely free for our participants. Our entire team operates on a volunteer basis, supporting the model railroading community. Before we begin tonight's lineup, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Brennan's Model Railroading.
Tonight's New Tracks Modeling Meetup is sponsored by Brennan's Model Railroading. For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products focused on the O-scale market. Their flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. The prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, Brennan's has developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Brennan's also has craftsman kits that anyone can build. The complete photographically illustrated instructions assume you've never done this before, and explain in step-by-step detail how to create an outstanding model. The Frank Ellison Tribute series of kits are amazing additions to any layout. These kits take Frank Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level using modern methods and materials with Dennis Brennan's additional details and amazing instructions. See the complete line of products on the Brennan's Model Railroading website. Use the QR code to visit.
As I indicate every week, we do not have very high expenses in producing the show, but we do have expenses to put it on. And if it wasn't for people like Dennis Brennan from Brennan's Model Railroading, we wouldn't have the show. Brennan has a new kit out. It's a signature series, Gilbert's Substation. I will be featuring that at the end of the program, part 2 and final build, a watch me build that I've been doing. As you'll see, it is it's a high value kit. for the short money that he's asking for this kit and the $20 discount that you get by typing NEWTRX into his website, it's a real bargain. So it's a $159.95 kit with the $20 discount. It's $139.95. It's an O-scale kit, and it is just absolutely stunning model at home from any period, from the early 1900s to contemporary. Okay, so let's have a look at what's on this evening's program. Put my glasses on to see this. Okay, first up, we're going to have a new presenter, Dan Bigda. We're going to call his master model series. He's going to show you a build that he's done. It's a stunning build, and I've been watching Dan for some time on Facebook and complimenting his work, and I thought I'd go ahead and make contact with him. So he's a first-time New Tracks mentor presenter this evening. And then we have News and Views S-Scale, the Mifflin Interlocking Tower, Part 1. Jamie Bothwell, a longtime contributor to the show. He's sponsored by the National Association of S-Gaugers. And then we have another new presenter. We're going to call this Manufacturer's Corner. He's a proprietor of Empire Trackworks. Alan, tough to pronounce for me with French. I speak German.
Alan is just fine.
Okay, Alan Lou, go ahead and say it.
Loizeaux.
Loizeaux sounds almost Italian to me. And then the Watch Me build that I just referred to, the Garfield Substation, Part 2 of 2. This will be the conclusion of this Watch Me build. And I think it was Doc Lovelace asked how I got that brick effect. I effectively turned a flat laser cut brick into something that looks like somebody actually stacked little low scale bricks. I'll share with you how I did that. I figured it out. It was a happy accident. So before we get rolling, I'd like to highlight our New Tracks Modeling Scholarship Program and have a brief video on that and a few words on that initiative if I don't know if Bill's on board.
The New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship is the only national scholarship for model railroaders from a volunteer nonprofit organization. For academic year 2025-26, we are awarding 4 $2,000 scholarships for model railroaders pursuing a STEAM degree. We hope to award a similar number of scholarships for the 2026-27 academic year. We believe it is critical to support the next generation of model railroaders. You can support the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship by donating online using the Zephy platform or directly by check. All donations are tax deductible.
I'll be brief, but I think everyone knows just how important the scholarship program is to New Tracks Modeling and all our platforms. That's what we're really here for. Well, not entirely, but we feel it's critical to support the youth in model railroading so the hobby continues to move forward. I'll share a brief story and then we'll get on with the program. Approximately maybe a month now was a national narrow gauge convention in St. Louis. And I was there with Phil and a few of you, and I was fortunate to kick off the awards night. They asked me to kick off the evening with a short speech talk about the scholarship. And I started off by, there was approximately 400 people in the audience. And I asked how many out there are familiar with New Tracks Modeling and the New Tracks Scholarship Program. And to my delightful surprise, about 50% of the people raised their hands, which I thought was wonderful. Then I said, if all of you, 400 of you, made a $10 donation, I said, and everyone out here that attended a show, a national show, can definitely afford $10. I see you in the vendor room spending hundreds of dollars on trains, but if you just made a $10 donation to our scholarship program, you would fund 2 two $2,000 scholarships. And likewise, as I say every week, we get approximately 350 to 400 views by the end of the week on this live Zoom show, probably 200 live, and then another 200 people watch it afterwards. Again, if the 400 of you that watch this every single week would donate $10, that would be $4,000 or two scholarships. Now, we did receive $80 in Zephy contributions just a couple of days ago. So I know this message is reaching some of you. And the magazine is another vehicle, another platform we have. We reach 10,000 people with our magazine. If everybody gave $10 there, that would give us $100,000. I mean, that's an incredible amount of money and would fund larger scholarships and more scholarships. So we're not asking for 100 or 1,000 or 5,000. We're asking for $10. It just takes a moment. The new treasurer, I gave it up to Bob Davidson. You can write a conventional check to Bob Davidson, treasurer, New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship. There's his home address. Or with your smartphone, you can scan that code there and go to Zephy. All your donations are tax deductible. And we take nothing for the administration of this scholarship. 100% of your money goes to the students. And those of you that were with us here a couple months ago in July, we awarded the 4 scholarships, and we had each one of the individuals on the show. There really are, there is a future for model railroading with guys like this, and really nice young men. And so with that, let's begin the program. Let me see what we got here. So the first one up is going to be Dan Bigda. Dan is new, as I said, to the program. And welcome to the show, Dan. And
good evening.
We appreciate you coming on. And you and I have been, I don't know, texting each other for probably a better part of 3 years. The Mutual Admiration Society, complimenting each other's work.
Right. I would agree, yes.
And he's got a wonderful kit. Is that a kit or a scratch build? I never did ask.
It's a scratch.
Oh, that's even better. That's right up my alley, as you know. So
Back
this scratch build is wonderful. And Phil, if you could put that up, and we'll have a little question and answer series at the end.
Tom, just about everything you've seen me put together over the last couple of years have all been scratch.
That's terrific.
Like yourself.
Yeah. Well, maybe before we start, let me give you a quick 5-minute interview since you are new to the program.
Okay.
So how'd you get into model railroading?
My dad made me have a hobby. And so very young, I picked model trains and been in it ever since. And now my life is 24/7 model trains or real trains. So
what scale did you start in, and what scale are you in now?
when I first started, it was the original Tyco AHM train sets. We all remember that AHM train set with the layout on the back of the box. That was pretty cool. Everybody wanted to emulate that as a kid. Then I went to N scale, and then eventually had more room, and ended up in O scale. It's since moved, and right now, in between probably getting a house here in the next 3 months. So in the place I'm at, it's close to my mom to help her out. And while that is, I needed a hobby room, so I built this. And for a couple of years, been just building ON30, O scale type, wharf type models to a wharf seam that I'm going to put together.
What do you enjoy most about model railroading? The building of structures, the running of trains?
The build.
The build.
Yeah, the creativity behind building.
In your new layout, that'll be an ON30 layout?
Yes, that'll be correct.
Will you have that DC or DCC or both, or what's your scheme?
I would like to have DCC. Um, we'll see. I mean,
Or dead rail to our
yeah,
deferred.
and dead rail is kind of cool too. So at the Amherst Reilly Society, at their once a month meetings, they talk a lot about dead rail and have shown it and piqued my interest in dead rail. So we'll see where this goes.
Well, if you can attend next week's show, I might be able to coerce Steve Sherrill, who's probably the biggest proponent of dead rail and narrow gauge model railroading in the country. Get him
Sure,
on to talk about that again. He's the acknowledged expert in that.
I'll
Um,
be there then.
yeah,
That's
if
cool.
he's on the show, I'm sure that's a big surprise to him right now. Well,
Very good.
let's start with the program then. Let's see what your scratch build. And I love scratch building, so I'll be
Yeah, I
interested
mean,
to see. Yeah,
your recent kit is phenomenal. I mean, I can't I can't comment enough what I actually think on the on your post. So
thank you. Well,
you
that's
did an
that.
excellent job. I mean,
You're talking
unbelievable.
about the big tipple, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was a monster undertaking. I don't think I'll be doing one of those for a while again.
yeah.
Let's see what you've got because that's just magnificent.
And one thing I want to say before jumping this is with Facebook and the tool that it's become in the internet itself, with modelers like yourself posting and me seeing all these other great modelers that do post, it just I don't think I'm as good as you guys, and I try to raise my level to what you guys are at,
I
and
I think you're just as good as anybody, as we'll see.
yeah, and I get that, and I'm trying to be humble and everything else, but it's such a great tool to look at and see your work and other people's work. Greg Cassidy, another one, a bunch of other guys, and I'm glad they post because one thing I see in the industry, and I've worked for Lionel Trains, I've worked for other model companies, and people are intimidated by a Craftsman kit. And somehow, one of the things I figured out, and I talked to a manufacturer, is how do we get these people over that hump of buying a $300 kit and then get them to work on it without feeling like if they make a mistake or it's not going to look like the box cover. And that's one of the biggest things I try to help people with. I used to hold modeling classes and things like that, of trying to get over the hump to not only get their hands on working on that Craftsman kit that they spent so much money on, but also how do you fix a mistake? And that's what they don't know yet. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, we'll need to move into your presentation here, but I
yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about. I had a scratch build that I considered a failure. It was a coal tipple, the Durango uh, coal tipple, built directly from plans from a friend of mine, Tim Milena, and I miscolored it, let it sit on the shelf for like 6 or 7 years, and I went back and rebuilt it. And up until the coal tipple that I just built, I considered it my best scratch build. So you can do what we call recovery modeling, another term coined by our Steve Sherrill. And we have whole programs on that. So stick around. Let's see what you got this
Sure.
evening. Got a
Yep.
full slate here tonight.
Yep. Sorry for that off rant.
No, it's okay. No, we're all about what you just did.
Yeah. So this is this was actually built out of norm from all the wood kits I've been recently building, and working with a manufacturer, I'm trying to get him to change some of his kit mediums. And so with this, making it corrugated and what you see here with some wood on the top for the shed up there, staircase shed and so forth, was out of my realm of what I've been usually working on. Even though working in styrene is quite normal, it just if you look at and do research on buildings or wharfs or where there's a collection of buildings, you start doing individual research on each building or what's around there or what you want, you find out they're built with different mediums, whether they're corrugated steel like this, or wood, or some other type of panel, or even some of the modern day stuff that's out there. So I haven't built a plastic or scratched the plastic structure in a couple of years. And so get back into it. This is the result of an area and location I want to put up that I have for the wharf that I'm making, that this will fit into. So I don't have a name for the kit. You kind of named it, but Reilly and the dog called Anchor are names of, they're essentially me and my dog. Through the course of building this wharf, they're their inspectors. And they go around each building, and as I'm building it, they're in kind of every photo I put in and say, oh, they're here checking this out or checking that out. And so with this as the finished photo, they're essentially going to head upstairs and have some tasty beverages up at the top with the guys taking a break. So as the wharf evolves, there's a whole story I'm putting together behind the wharf, which is called Cliff's Wharf, and the actual town is Finn Gill. And they're fictional, and they're just modeled off of different things or cool buildings I see in just general research of something. I go, oh, that would fit here, and then I build it. So you can go next, I guess. Everybody has their favorites for gluing the kits together. There's this super glue, wood glue that you find for $1.25 at a dollar store. And to me, the stuff is phenomenal. It works great. I use it. Since I found it, I've only used that. It's a really good glue. It's really strong, and you get a lot of it for a very good price. And then, of course, there's water super glue. I don't think I can live in modeling if that wasn't available as a glue. So just to show some of the glues I use when putting together, that's basically the two for every kit I do. You can go next. So here we got, let's see, some of the builds started. Let's see. I had built the structure with the tank on it to start with, and the actual tanks were built out of tape dispensers that were left over, and I saved that stuff. And I save all sorts of weird stuff because you never know when to use it. I ended up cutting it in half, and that became the top and the bottom. And then I just glued wood slats on it, and that became the tank. And then I have this 1 millimeter Tamiya tape that I paint black and tape it off. That looks like the straps for the tank. And then the roof, it came from Jeff Markin, that's on Facebook too. And I was looking for the Campbell scale model roof. I didn't have any, and he sent some over, so thank you. And I thought it worked good for those tanks, the water tanks. This kit too, being O scale, or essentially ON30, but O scale, with Reilly and Anchor. Those windows are from a HO scale factory from some kit that I found somewhere cheap and stole the windows out of it. So with the corrugated, it gets painted. You got to cut out all the roofs and the windows and everything else to get everything to fit and make it look like as the first picture. You can go next. Here again, just the further view, essentially the workbench, with some background photos that I go off of to help me build or keep me in the direction I want to go to eventually end up with a finished scratch build kit. And then you see, like in the background, the modified glue holder for the MEK. And then there's stains. I don't know, there's everything all over. As we all know, when we're building, your workspace becomes smaller and smaller as you do more and more. Next thing you know, you end up with like a 6x6 little work area, and then you got to re-clean everything, and then you start again. But and there's essentially where I kind of hang out a lot of my life, is at this workbench. So next, yeah, there's the kit all by itself, the start of the kit. And when I built this, I didn't know what I wanted behind it. So I just started building something which I thought looked good in the scene where it's going to be. Which then the corrugated build came next. So next, there's the repositioned MEK glue holder with the tester's brush. Believe it or not, they don't melt with the MEK. So if you finding your brushes while you're using MEK, the tester's ones just they don't melt and they don't get affected by the MEK. So there's a modeler's note for y'all. Oh, this is the beginning of the kit, the bottom, the one we just saw. This essentially don't take any dimensions when I start something. I just start using the door and start putting pieces together. And then eventually you saw that tower with the water tank. So here's the doors laying around, different pieces I used to finally get to a finished product. Next. I use these 1, 2, 3 blocks all the time. And then behind the blocks, those flat metal things are called parallels, and they use those in vices for mill machines. But they're great for holding parts down or even putting glue on and dabbing the super glue onto a part and so forth. So here, these 1, 2, 3 blocks are keeping that whole piece together as it's glued or setting up in the glue and so forth. And I probably have 18 of the 1, 2, 3 blocks and just about every size parallel in the background that I use to hold different things. Of course, the bottling square in the background too, to make sure everything's square. But I don't know, for some reason, the past 3 or 4 buildings I put together, I don't know why they end up crooked. I end up having to pry them back and everything else. It's every real fun time straightening out my kits as they're being built. So it's a good thing I know how to fix it. But anyways, next. So here's the model coming together with the corrugated. And I paint and pre-paint everything before I put it all together. You see the doors. I usually do things in light colors. Usually my windows and doors start white. And from there, I can either darken them up, tan them. I can weather them and so forth. So generally my white or flat white is my basis for any doors and windows. And then they end up whatever color I end up doing them as like you said, a chalk or a stain or so forth. And the windows, like I said, the big windows are from some HO kit. I don't even know where they came from. The other windows and doors are either Tichy or Grant Line. And even those I modify to fit certain places and so forth. So with this, an interesting thing, I got this aluminum paint, premium silver paint. And every time you paint that, it's always too bright. So what I found out when I paint the silver is I immediately put matte clear right on them, and it tones it down and actually turns it into the color you see here and takes the brightness out of it. And it's a great effect. It really works good. And the other good thing is when you paint silver and then you don't cover it with anything, silver paints or metallic paints always seem to never dry. They always seem viscous. So with the covering of the matte, it does 2 things: help dry the silver or any metallic paint you have. And then next, when you go to weather on the silver with the matte on it, it seems to hold better and hold the stains or hold the dust, the weathering dust and chalks and so forth that you put on the corrugated and the plastic. So these little tips that I found that seem to work when I'm modeling these things to help tone down or help get, like, every clear plastic piece I paint because, as we all know, you just can't weather a piece of plastic because it will never stick to it and so forth. So these weathering chalks and whatever all need to have something to adhere to. You go next. And again, we have Reilly and Anchor sitting there looking at everything. What's cool about the roof is this roof I saved from another kit that I tore apart. And I was actually building a Helgen plastic kit. I think that was the last plastic I touched probably a year ago or more. And I made ended up making a brewery complex out of it. But the original, that kit went through 3 reditions, the Helgen brewery kit, got torn apart 3 times before I eventually liked something I built with it. But out of that, the roofs on there were the roof you see here, and I saved them. And so what I did with this is saved it. And I'm like, I don't have to make a roof. And I cut this up to fit the corrugated building here. And so, again, saving all sorts of weird parts and not kind of throwing certain things away. This roof has these 1/4-inch sides there. And when I tore apart from the building, they all tore apart some of that 1/4-inch piece of wood. Basswood is what it is. And so to me, it looked great as a great kind of rotted feature on the side of the roof up there. And it left a great effect when I tore it apart originally. So again, those windows were from some kit, and now the roof was also cut and put into place. And I thought it looked out the finished product. I thought it looked pretty good. So next, here I show the tape dispensers. Fortunately, I thought I had a picture of me building those, but I cut those in half, and then I had 20 thou by maybe a 64th inch strip, and I started laying them down on the tape dispensers in length, and ended up making and going around the whole tape dispenser. And I used actually tacky cement, but I sanded the round of the tape dispensers so the tacky glue had something to adhere to. So then when I put everything together, you had time to adjust the slats going up and down. And once it all sat and it was set, rather, I mean, and I tapped it all with super glue, and it really held it really nice. But again, saving the weird things, the tape dispensers, and cutting them in half made the inside of the tanks. Next, yeah, same thing here again. You can kind of see the detail of the roof line up there. The front of the roof, it's all kind of torn, kind of bumpy and everything. Great, again, it's a great effect that happened when I tore apart that Helgen kit. Next slide. And there they are. You can kind of see the top of the tank with half the tape dispensers on each side. In fact, there's a wood piece I didn't cut when I took the picture on the left tank. And there's the tanks as they're being built. So again, even before I got to this point, I didn't know the tanks would end up there. That water handler piece to the left that's overhanging, that just threw together with some parts, and I thought, oh, that looks good. So I threw that there. The kits just come together. I don't make any plans, and at the end, I got something that people think look cool. So I keep going with what works for me, and just starting from zero and putting something together is how this is done. A side note, there's a few projects I did in the recent past. Like I did a Kodak film island store for a parking lot, and I had to write critical dimensions down for that and so forth. So that was like the last time I did wrote anything down for dimensions when I built the Kodak. island store. So anyways, yeah, next slide. Again, I got the 1, 2, 3 block. I didn't glue that yet. When I was placing it there, was holding it down because where all the piping's coming out made it front end heavy, so it wouldn't hold up by itself. So the 1, 2, 3 block is there to hold it there as I started to measure out the pipes coming, which would eventually end up in front of the tanks to pull the water out. So this being a canning company, like the other two I did, has a lot of water in tanks to clean the foods and do whatever else they do in a canning company. It's my assumption on how a canning company works. So when I did a little research on canning companies, they use a lot of water. So hence all the tanks. Next slide. Oops. So there it is coming together before I weathered it and everything else. All the pipes essentially are just held together by pressure. The tanks are sitting on its platform. Everything all there is just sitting there. And Reilly and of course Anchor, the dog, are up on the roof checking everything out and thinking everything's cool and being built right and so forth. Of course, I'm setting this layout around the early 50s era rather. So so you did see some corrugated buildings like this or other types of buildings, and it allows me to do different things in that era. Also use kind of some neat vehicles that'll be on this wharf project and so forth. But yeah, next so yeah, this is pre-weathered. So next slide. And there's the final shot with everything weathered. Essentially it's all either weathered with the windows. I think I did with the Hunter line stains, and then I put some of the weathering chalks on it. But everything else is essentially the weathering chalks, and where you got water, where you got rust, steel and everything, where rust would develop. You could see where I tried to emulate that on this project for this kit. And looking back at corrugated from that time, they really had no rust preventative paints or anything back then. So everything, and this is going to be by a river ocean type wharf scenario. So the salt or the waters essentially just ate away the paints and the buildings became all rusted. And so you see the different color rust and so forth of what's going on. And then of course those roofs are all from that previous Helgen kit I tore apart and did all those with just regular acrylic paints that you would buy at Walmart, for example, and just kind of watered up the paint and dabbed them in there. And then what I made the tar lines with is this fabric paint, which is kind of some cool stuff. It flattens out a little bit, but doesn't flatten out like a regular acrylic paint. And actually it looks like you fixed an area with the tar or tar paper and the tar. So you see the tar lines and everything in that if you really look in on the photo and so forth. And you can see it on the single stack structure where the tar lines are on that black roof. So essentially that's took about 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks to put this together, and giving it about an hour and a half a night. And then sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays to work on it. So it's quite a few hours in each time you scratch build it. And Tom can probably relate, and all you other scratch builders here. It takes a lot of time to scratch build and think forward and plan ahead before you glue something together and so forth. But here we are, and I have many more kits and so forth that I have for this wharf, and hopefully we can have a show on that too. That would be kind of cool. I'd like to present that. So
excellent, Dan.
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. Do we have any questions for Dan? And then I have some comments on his.
Yeah, I've got one. Hey, Dan, it's Greg.
Hey, Greg.
first of all, I wish they could show a picture of your Kodak shop. I think that's one of the best things you've ever done. That thing was fantastic.
Oh, really?
And this came out great for absolutely no planning, I've got to say. But I noticed you have on your bench some of the Hunterline Cottage White, which is a pigment more than a stain.
Yeah.
When you use that, and I know you do a lot of building in wood, do you tend to shake it before you use it, or do you use it thin, where you don't shake it and you're just getting the stuff on the top, which gives you a thinner coating? Have you found one way you tend to use it more?
I always thin it. In fact,
Uh-huh.
I'll even take one of these little cups that actually, I don't know, Todd Brian, he
Yeah.
gave me a bunch of these, and I'll pour it in it and put 91% alcohol
Mm-hmm.
and turn it into more of a stain, because
Okay.
I do, as you see it, use it more as a stain than as a pigment to fill in. And what happens is I get that part to whiten up,
Yeah.
and then I could do light weathering on what I whitened up, and it seems to work. Especially, it doesn't work on plastic, but
Uh-huh.
any wood
Yeah.
or paper, it works perfect.
Yeah, the alcohol tends to run off the plastics. I've got a couple of those pigments.
Right.
I've got the cottage and the cement and shale.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like using them different ways.
Yeah, I have the light gray, which is kind of a base
Mhm.
for all the all the scratches you saw me do with the other buildings, because that's kind of been my base. But then I'll chalk or do whatever.
All right. Well, nice job. Say hi to Anchor and Reilly for me.
I will. More
Any
to
other
come too.
any other questions for Dan?
Yeah, I actually have a couple of questions, Dan,
Sure.
and a comment, by the way, before go. You said 91% is your dilution. When we had the hunters on doing a build a few years back, I asked the question what she used, and she said she used 70% alcohol for stains.
Hmm.
So just as a side, it was kind of an
Yeah.
interesting comment. I know I always bought 91% because I thought it was better for warping, but she said she mixes the base stains with 70%. So
Really? All right.
yeah, so you can buy the two bottles at Costco for $5 and save a little money. Two questions. Your piping. What did you use for the piping on the big thick water pipes?
All right. I'm gonna. You know what? I knew that question was going to come up, and I went through my emails because I just reached out to the gentleman. I need to get more. If it's okay, I can
Yeah.
post it or email it to you.
Yeah, no, or just come back and let us know in the future. It's
Yeah,
Need to know at this
because
instant, yeah.
I tell you, 3 minutes before we're coming on, I'm like, I know someone's going to ask, and I tried to look through, and I couldn't get to the.
so a second question. Hang on, I think I've got this here. Let me make sure I've got this where I can. I don't. So when you did the water tanks, you used the basically they look like they were just essentially cheap tape dispensers, the little ones for basic tape. You
Yeah,
look like you put wood sticks on those to extend the height. And so kind of what you can do is just use two of those and use wood sticks to glue them together to make any water tank any height you want.
Yeah.
That's
well,
good. That was cool.
let me add to that. You're right. Now, I don't have one here to show you, but because I used them, is those tape dispensers actually have slots in them and have an inner circle.
Right.
So I found like this 16-inch piece of wood. You can jam them in there around in the circle, and then put the top on it, and it keeps it all straight. So
yeah, so this was what I saw was that you basically had used the sticks here to extend it. And then
yes,
this one looks like you just had one that didn't have the inner circle, but
right.
that's a great idea. I think that's a great way of building a water tank to whatever height you want without having to find something and use those as a standard. That's a cool idea. Great
Yeah,
idea.
thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you. And I use different brands of tape in there because I bought them separate on purpose, and they're all the same size diameter. So I didn't gain anything. So, anyways,
Well, I want to wrap this up, Dan, but I have, I think, approximately 5 takeaways from your presentation. Number one, I finally met somebody else that builds like me. Never have any plans. I just start with the first door and the first wall and now there's two of us.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
The second takeaway was the spraying the silver on the plastic and then hitting it with the matte to tone down the silver and basically take away the tackiness of it and give you a nice something to grab onto with the pan pastels or the chalks. That was a good takeaway.
okay.
The third takeaway, I'm doing this all from memory since I'm not at my desk. I don't even have a pencil here. Third takeaway was the glue, the wood glue, the super wood glue you got from a dollar store, I imagine.
Yeah, this stuff right here.
I'm going to try and find this. Where did you get that?
Was it Dollar General or
Okay, but one of the dollar stores? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a nice takeaway.
Yeah.
Excellent takeaway.
Great stuff.
And then the Steve Sherrill axiom where we call it rescue modeling, where you take a old kit or an old model and use parts of it or all of it on a new model. We call that rescue modeling. So this presentation catches scratch building and rescue modeling.
Yeah. Which those pieces were scratched to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's the reuse of a kit or reuse of a structure.
Right.
And the idea of putting the figure and the dog in each photo is a great idea because it gives you an idea of the scale, the size of the model.
Right.
So that was why in that tipple that I built, I put a little figure in there so somebody get the idea of the size. Because
you did. Yeah.
Can't see that. So I want to thank you, Dan, for a great presentation. And as our Jim Kello, the founder of New Tracks Modeling, said, if you didn't learn something from this particular presentation, you weren't paying attention.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
Excellent
it.
presentation and a great model. It shows how it grows from a Tichy or Grantline door and some plastic to a contest-winning model. So terrific.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that.
Okay, well, next up, we've got, again, from memory, Jamie Bothwell. He's sponsored by S-Gage.
Are you looking for something a little different in your model railroading?
National Association.
The National Association of S-Gagers suggests you take a look at S-Scale. An S-Scale model is just 36% longer than an HO model, but it's 2.5 times the volume. The larger size translates to increased ease of maintenance, more durable details, and improved electrical and mechanical reliability. S-Scale modelers use accurately proportioned wheels and track systems with KD-style couplers. Exceptional S-Scale models and layouts are being built in both standard and narrow gauge. Locomotives and rolling stock are available from a number of manufacturers in both ready-to-run and kit form. Equipment is available both new and through an active secondary market. There are numerous manufacturers of track, buildings, vehicles, and details, both ready to run and in kit form, available for those who love to build. And many S modelers enjoy kit bashing and scratch building in the larger size S offers. To learn more, visit the website of the National Association of S-Gagers. Here you will find the history of the scale, information about clubs in your area, see layouts and connect with current manufacturers and online groups, plus much more. In short, the website has everything you'll need to explore model railroading in S-Scale today. Come on board and visit soon.
So next up, we have News and Views S-Scale, the Mifflin Interlocking Tower, Part 1 by our very own Jamie Bothwell, New Tracks mentor modeler. Jamie, welcome to the show again, and thank you for your continuing support and presentations.
Okay, well, yeah, thanks. I, try to help out. All right, so let's jump right in here. Let's see, I'll do the old share the screen here. Click my presentation. Uh-oh, where'd it go? All right. I'm gonna have to go find it. Give me a sec here. Sorry. What did I do? Where did it go? There we go. Let's try that. Okay, so back to Zoom. Oh, come on.
You're sharing, Jamie.
Yeah,
just throw it
okay.
into slideshow. Just click slide.
Yeah, I just gotta get this thing out of my face here. All right, so let's see. View, right. Okay, view.
Slideshow, second one up at the top.
Yeah. I'll find it. Thanks. There we go. Okay. So news and views, S scale. Let's see where. Oh, there's mine. Okay, sorry. All right. So Mifflin Tower Part 1. Bit of a story here. This kit started off as an HO model because a friend of mine was really hot to get a model of Mifflin Tower. He modeling Mifflin, Pennsylvania on his layout, and he wanted Mifflin Tower. So I said, okay, fine, I'll make you a Mifflin Tower. And then I had another friend who's an HO modeler. So I thought, well, if I'm building one for Paul, I better build one for, if I'm building one for, yeah, for Paul, I better build one for Bill. So I made two of them. But then after the first one, I changed my construction method a little bit. So I started on a third one. So I had three Mifflin Towers. So by the time I got done with it, Bill was no longer a model railroader. He decided to sell off and move on with his life. So he's not in the model. So he didn't want a Mifflin Tower. So now I have these two other ones that are sitting around waiting to be finished. They have windows at some point. I don't glue them in and then I put them down somewhere and I got to find them again. And a lot of times it's easier to just cut a whole new set. So I do that. And then there's roofs and everything. So, just one of these days it's like trim work of what I've got to do. Like you can see there's this piece under what would be under the roof. And then there's sort of matches around like the level of the bay window. So I got to put that little sort of false roof on there. Anyway, and then I don't know what I'm going to do with them because I'm not an HO guy. So here's the S scale version. Okay. So that's cut out of 16th inch plywood on the laser. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, I don't own a laser. What am I going to do? Okay. My daughter lives in Delaware. She says to me, her local library has a laser that you can go use. So, if you look around, there are places you could make your own laser cut kits, right? So you don't have to own a laser to be able to use a laser, right? And it's really very simple. If you look at this building, it's really just a bunch of rectangles, right? So, you draw a big rectangle for the front wall, and then you draw some other rectangles for the windows and so on and so forth, right? And then you figure out how you're going to put it together. But it's all about thinking in layers and drawing rectangles. So this is, and as an example of that, this is the front of the bay window. And so you can see that there's a layer of the plywood underneath, say like you're only seeing the little squares underneath that are the plywood. And then this piece on the top is a piece of laser board. Laser board's a resin impregnated paper product. It's great stuff. Okay. All right, so there's shows you the sort of the construction of the whole thing really, but using the bay window as an example. Okay, so here's your center of your bay window. That was just cut today. I cut one and I didn't like it. It was some of the partitions between the windows were a little outsized. They weren't all the same. So I went back and recut one. And so these are the two sides of the bay window. Now what I do is I run these through a table saw at a 45-degree angle. And so then they get a nice bevel if I want to do that. Now the walls of the building itself are just butt jointed because what's going to happen is that this piece over here, you see this is the trim layer. This is painted in the brown color that it will be. That trim layer will hide the joints. And I would have done the same thing with the bay window, but what happened was I didn't cut if I was going to butt joint them, I should have changed the size and the position of the window to accommodate the thickness of the wall, and I didn't do that. So I just ran them through the table saw and cut them off at a 45-degree angle. So let's see, big over here. Okay. So there's the front piece. Again, that piece wasn't painted yet. I have a couple of them that are painted. I didn't paint this one because when I was looking at it, what happened was there was a bar across here, but it just didn't really fit. It really should have been a little lower, and not wanting to waste, 50 cents worth of laser board, I just cut it off, and I'm just going to put a new bar in across here when I'm done. So that's how that's going to work out. So most of that gets covered by the bay window. Really should come down to about here. The first one I cut just had a hole for the bay window, and you would have had to step over the wall to get out into the bay window. And so I cut this one to be a little, I couldn't figure out where the floor should have been. How high should the floor have been in this? So I just went with that. So here's the piece with the painted trim laid in place. This is the side. I haven't glued this yet, but this is what it's going to look like. So that's the painted building and the painted trim. I'm questioning my choice of colors on the building. I don't know. Of course, I'm sure every railroad's like this, but people want to fight about what color is supposed to be the color. And but I've used this one and I've been reasonably happy with it. So I'm thinking about keeping it, but I'm looking into some other ones. So I haven't really glued the trim on yet, but that's sort of my next step is to glue the trim onto the sides. So here's the windows. Okay, that's most of the windows for the kit. And I think I mentioned this once before, but I've cut windows in the past and I bring them home and they're just a little bit too big. And I go, yeah, I could sand these things, or I could just go cut more. So usually I just cut more windows. And then this picture here shows you how the windows are actually constructed. This one is, if you'll notice the other windows had more panes. These are the ones for the basement or the main floor, the ground floor, and they're just like double hung single pane windows. So you can see that the original, there's a big rectangle. You cut out a big rectangle and then you cut out a smaller rectangle that fits over the top, and then you glue it together, so you get that two-layer effect. So I've got that's the same with the other windows too. This was the one I happened to grab for a close-up. So here's the roof. This is the main roof of the building. So what I do is I tape them together with masking tape. Okay, so I get the roof, positioned where I want it to be, and then I just flip it over and run wood glue around the inside of it and just let it sit there till it dries. And that makes a pretty sturdy roof. Now for this one, I wanted to make some braces for the roof. So what I did was I took my handy angle roof measure, my angle measuring ruler, and I measured the angle of the roof. And you can see from my drawing there, it came out to 122 degrees. So that makes a 61-degree angle. Now here's a little trick for you. What I did was I cut this piece on a miter saw, but it would only go out as far as 50 degrees. So I set it down to the 29 degrees, which would have been the complement of the 61. And then I cut it on the end of the stick instead of the side, so instead of, if you can imagine like a 1x4, instead of putting the 1-inch face against the fence, I put the 4-inch face against the fence. And of course I put another piece of wood against it. So I had a little bit more bracing to hold it square. And there's the pieces that I cut. Now, that was a piece of 3/4-inch pine. And so what I did was I made it, and then I ran it through the table saw and cut it into two pieces of whatever, 3/8-inch pine or whatever thickness it is anymore. And then I'm going to use those two as roof supports. And you can see it worked out pretty well. All right. I got a pretty good cut on that. So my angle measuring ruler is quite effective. So that's what's going to go on there, and then those are going to fit. Those notches, of course, will fit into the walls of the building, and that'll sort of hold everything in place. So that's my plan. Okay, and that's what I got for tonight. Thank you. Let's stop the share.
That's coming along great, Jamie. And how do you cut little pieces? You have a modeler's table saw, or use a
No, I got a big old table saw.
I guess you and Phil have more cahoons than I do. I hate cutting those little pieces on my big table saw.
Well, the little ones, you use a push stick.
I know, but I'm always afraid of kicking away.
Yeah, I was the wood shop teacher's my buddy, and I was like, the push sticks, I don't like those things. He has the one of the projects he has the kids make. It's like a closed handle. It's not just like a stick. It's like an actual handle. He says, just run them through the saw, and you just run them through, and they just cut. You just cut a hole where the push stick is, and it's no big deal.
You and Phil was using my big bad table saw, cutting little pieces, and I wanted to make sure he kept all his fingers, no problem.
Yeah, well, actually. The saw we have is a saw stop. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They are the neatest thing. You put your finger in there. I cut my finger and stopped the saw before I even knew I had done it. The nick in my finger was so small I didn't even know I'd cut my finger, and all it cost was $90.
Well, I should investigate that. I've only had 2 kickbacks in 25 years, but
Well, they can still kick back, but you can't cut your fingers off.
yeah. I
So
think you're doing a great job with that model, and I don't know what you're going to do with the HO ones. I'm sure somebody would be
yeah,
interested.
pass them off to somebody, whatever. So yeah, and I truthfully, I don't have any real need for Mifflin Tower on my layout, any planned layout that I have, truthfully. What happened was the tube in the laser died, and so it took me almost a year to get a new tube. So I just thought, well, I better, throw something in there that I could test out. And when I went to the convention this summer, there was a guy, a friend of mine had built a model of Jack's tower that I had laser cut for him and given to him. He had it in the contest room, and I thought, dang, I gotta build an interlocking tower myself. So that was sort of a rechristen the laser, make sure everything's working okay, and go from there. So
Well,
anyway,
one,
I got
one,
another pretty cool project I'm working on too, but I'll share that one at a later date. So
regarding the coloring, you visited my layout, and that light brown, dark brown is what I have on my John Allen engine house. And that's a nice look, but also I have the dark brown and a yellow, which is a typical color for those things as well,
yeah,
So
the Pensy was sort of that, tan brown
yeah,
combo. They had a couple of standard color schemes, but the one you see most often is the tan and the brown.
yeah. Well, thank you again, and appreciate it. And next up, after we're going to have a video on the My Build program, and then we'll go to Manufacturer's Corner, Empire Trackworks.
Don't miss the monthly New Tracks Modeling My Build event. My Build is where the modelers of New Tracks show what they have been building. See amazing modeling with some My Builds featuring specific topics for modeling. If you would like to have your models included in the My Build, please email your modeling photos to chriscourse@railrunner130@hotmail.com. If you are a first-time My Build participant, please include a photo of yourself.
Chris is the segment manager of the My Build program.
Hey, thanks, Tom. All right, we'll get to this here. All right, what we have coming up for the My Builds. We're going to have another challenge. This time it'll be October 22nd. The subject is Halloween and oddities, whatever you can come up with to fit into those two categories. It's pretty broad. Usually we have a lot of fun with this one, so please send your photos. I know you guys have a lot of little we'll call them Easter eggs that you put on your layout, some weird things like your Bigfoot or whatever. Anyway, for that, the submission deadline for that is October 19th. So please email your photos to me at railrunner130@hotmail.com. Please make sure that you include a brief description so that if for whatever reason, if you're not there, even if you don't, maybe you don't, you either can't make it or maybe you don't feel that you can talk to the audience. At least then that way I can speak somewhat intelligently about it. And then future shows coming up November 26th is an Anything Goes. Whatever you're working on, please share it. And then December 17th will be a challenge of layouts. So anyway, those are the shows that are upcoming, and you see all the rest of the ones clear up through June. And so I think that's about it for tonight. So I'll turn it back over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Chris. And I want to just remind everyone, and we have a lot of new viewers this evening and perhaps more that we don't know about on the YouTube side of things. The My Build is an opportunity for the viewers, first time, you don't even have to be first time, but an opportunity to be on the show with very little effort. You just need only send your photographs directly to Chris Course. His email, you can go back and look at this segment and pick up his email, and you can share your modeling with our viewership. It's a good way to get on the show, and You don't need to do anything other than talk to your slides. And it is probably one of our, well, definitely is one of our most popular segments. So appreciate that. Okay, next up, we have a manufacturer and a true railroader, Alan Loizeaux from Empire Trackworks, first time presenter on our show. Welcome to the show. Did I say that right?
No, everybody butchers it, and it's common practice for the last 55 plus years. So don't feel too bad. We'll just stick with Alan. There's no test on spelling or pronunciation, so we're all friends here.
I'll go with Alan Smith.
That's fine. I'll take it.
Welcome to the show, and let's just take a couple minutes. You're new to the show, and I think you were invited by Jamie Bothwell. That's how you found out. Were you aware of New Tracks modeling up until the introduction?
I have been contacted by New Tracks Modeling well over a year ago when the company started, and it just didn't fit into the timeline to get on board with it. But the timing is right, and I'm here tonight. First ever on New Tracks Modeling with you.
And when did you get into model railroading?
Oh, 5 years of age, and it's been going steady for 50 plus years, and here we are.
What scale did you start with?
Started off with the typical HO scale. A lot of this is covered in the slide presentation.
Oh, that's right.
But typically, the HO, the Lionel, and then got my first real layout, in ON 30. But typical model railroader, background on I've had it. Everyone else has had it. It's no surprise.
Yeah, you're right. Your presentation covers this, so we don't need to get it twice. Why don't we pop up his presentation, and I'll turn it over to you, Alan.
Okay. Like I said, there's no test at the end for the pronunciation or spelling, but we'll just stick with Alan. Next slide. The whole company actually is based upon my father, who passed away this last June. But he was a solid background to getting me with the idea of, yes, you can start a small business and take it as far as you want. So he's a huge piece of the background of the company. Next slide. There's a quick agenda. You could read the slide yourself. Trying to keeping this as short as possible. Next slide. Typical guy. I grew up in the hobby, following my dad, who was extremely passionate with the S gaugers. His name is well known within the S gauge community. At one time, he was the president of the NASG, the National Association of S gaugers. I got 22 years of active duty military under my belt. And as soon as I got out, retired out in 2008, been hired on by Norfolk Southern. And there's some of my credentials with them. And in 2009, bought the house and started my own personal layout.
Alan?
Yes.
Alan, wait, before we buzz by this. Phil, I think you've posted a connection to Alan's father's layout. Could you come on for a moment and tell everybody how they could take a look at that?
There's actually a tab on my website, Empire-Trackworks, that has all the information about my father's personal train layout, which is now in the process of being dismantled. But I took responsibility of his website and added it to mine, so it will be there forever. But if you got a couple quick pictures that you were able to capture, we can bring those up.
I actually put a video. There's a link to a TSG multimedia video in the chat. I just re-put it in the chat. So if anyone wants to, you can grab that and go look at it. It's a pretty amazing layout.
And Alan, just curious, before the show, we had a little pre-show and we looked at the video, and quite honestly, it's the S scale is the Goldilocks scale. It's just perfect size if you're modeling standard gauge. What's becoming to all those world-class structures of your father's? Just curious.
all I know is the children are not responsible for the estate, and as far as the trains go within the estate, they're being handled by the executor of the estate. And I hope the best for the remaining pieces of the layout, rolling stock and structures. And it's my fear that a lot of it is just going to get thrown in the trash.
Is there
That's
any?
my absolute fear.
It's not my business, but I mean, I want our audience, both the Zoomers and the YouTubers, to take a look at this video. This is an absolutely stunning model railroad, his father, and I really think somebody ought to pursue the legacy here and find out what's happening to those structures, because it's like throwing away Picasso.
Well, I have talked to the executor of the estate and tried to explain the historic importance behind this, one layout sitting there and, in California. Yeah, and they don't get it.
What part of California is it in?
Just south of San Francisco in Los Altos.
Okay. We don't need to talk about this any further, but I think we ought to have a discussion online and just see if we could chase down these structures.
Well, it's everything is supposed to happen in about 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of it is, it's a little bit too late to try to save anything, but I'm making arrangements to obtain as much as I possibly can that they don't, collect up and take to take them out for evaluation to, have someone make a donation. I'm trying to preserve as much as I can, but I don't know if I'm going to have any luck at all.
Well, we don't need to talk about, let's have a little conversation offline just for, I happen to be in California. Maybe we can do something. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation, but if anybody,
it's okay. My dad was just a huge component to, me starting up the business. He was a great support. He didn't financially give me any money for it, which is fine, but he gave me a lot of ideas on how to be successful. And we'll see where we go with this in the future years.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation, but it's just one of the nicest railroads I've ever seen. So, okay.
I got it saved on my personal website, so anybody can go back and look at it, in the future. Let's go on to the next slide and see where we end up at. Obviously, throughout the years, as my childhood, I had the usual Lionel, HO, and bought the house. And, there's a picture of my personal layout in, the plywood Pacific stage. It's got a little bit more done to it, but not much. And, it's ON30. And that's my first real layout really put together. Next slide, please. Here's how Empire Trackworks really came about. Larry Morton used to be the owner of Tamalco. And I got to be, I want to make it known that I don't know all the manufacturers' names. I might get some things messed up. I don't want to have any legal, issues with it. I'm just human. I might make a mistake every now and then on the wording and terminology. But Larry Morton owned Tamalco, and he lives really close in the area. He was the president of the Apple Valley Model Railroad Club, and asked out to me if I would open up my personal layout for a round robin tour. And I told him, sure, not a problem. Come on by. And at the end of the day, he came by, to check up on everything. And he basically just looked at me and said, I'm selling the company. Do you want to buy it? And we went back and forth for a little bit, but the timing wasn't right for me. I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't have the money for it. Nothing was right. But he ended up selling it off to someone else, and they now own Tamalco. But I started kind of thinking about it and got the what if bug and put it out there into the Facebook land on the ON30 chat groups that I was in, and people started buying turnouts. And then everything kept going good. And I said, you know what, I can do this. Did a little bit more research and put some real thought into it. And I went legit in early 24 and I knew that S scale was hurting. So I went ahead and targeted S scale and 0130. I was already invested in the fast tracks with 0130. So adding S scale really wasn't too much. I started attending, the O Scale West, the NASG, and the narrow gauge conventions, just to kind of get some feelers out there, and everything was positive. I had a fairly large customer base, and within the first year, and I was making profit, so I was happy. The customer comments were extremely positive, so I knew I was going somewhere right with this. Next slide, please. Yeah, time management is the hard part. I got family on one end of the candle. I got a full-time job with the railroad on the other side. And, I find a little bit of time somewhere in between to actually run the company. And so, it's very typical for me to come home from a, 10 to 12, maybe a 14-hour workday, come home, grab a cup of coffee, and just head straight downstairs to my little workshop and just spend an hour or two, fiddling around, working on an order, and then I'll go upstairs and go to bed. But I have to make time for the company, and it just, unfortunately, it falls somewhere between family and the job. Next slide, please. And there's my family support group. I got the 3 grandkids that just live about 5 minutes away, and the wife. Wife is always, telling me, "Don't you have something to do downstairs? Get yourself a cup of coffee and go downstairs. You got orders to fill. Have at it. This is what you wanted to do in life. Go do what you got to do." Yes, dear. And head downstairs and start filling up the orders. Next slide. A couple of the reasons why I really wanted to start Empire Trackworks is that there was a lot of websites out there offering turnouts for various scales, but a lot of them led to dead ends. And it's no surprise, you read all the forums out there, chat room forums, that most of the ready to run turnout options usually come with some known flaw with it, whether it's going to be, something that right away that you have to fix, or something that's going to happen down in the future. You just read and watch it that there's always some issue with a ready to run turnout. And some manufacturers have just gone out of business, but their website is still functional, and there's nothing suitable or available, for certain scales. There's ready to run ON30 turnouts if you want a number 5. If you want something other than a number 5, you're on your own. So the bottom line was the modeling community needed some help. And I wanted to fill that void and make things available for different scales that just weren't, available, as of the day I started up the company. Next slide, please. That's myself and my granddaughter. I forget which convention it was, but that was about 2 years ago. And these are not all, but most of my own personal responsibilities as it comes to running the company. So when you reach out by email or by phone call, I am the person that you're talking to. There's no one else. It's a one-man show. Everything from the manufacturing down to janitorial services, I got to take care of it. Next slide, please. How's it going so far? Well, following the 24 O Scale West, everything's been pretty steady. Started pushing out some advertisement, and a lot of my orders have actually come by word of mouth, not so much, with advertisements. Recommendations. I've been supporting some YouTubers, especially with the Otter Creek Rio Grande and the Thunder Mesa Studios. They started off or were continuing their HON3 train layouts, and I wanted to get into the HON3 market. So I reached out to them and I provided them with some product, and they've been able to do some very well done product reviews on their personal YouTube channels. And I told them, just give me your honest feedback, use them on the layout or fold them in half and throw them away. Just give me some honest feedback. And everything's been going extremely well. Everyone likes them, so I can't complain. And I will continue to attend O-Scale West, the NASG, and the National Narrow Gauge Conventions, and keep my face out there with all the customers and the new people out there. Just a picture of the workshop that I have. It's nothing fancy. Media endorsements. I've been product reviews. We're in the 2025 0130 annual and the 25 Shortline Narrow Gauge Gazette. I don't remember which month, but I believe it was in the 50th anniversary edition. I've had a couple company interviews, published, and I've been having my products splashed out there on other YouTube channels, particularly the Thunder Mesa Studios and the Otter Creek and Rio Grande. They've been really helpful. Next slide, please. Ground zero of operations is basically a 12 by 12 basement office with just the usual, desk, chairs, shelving, and tools that we pretty much already have laying around our workshop. The only thing really extra is I did upgrade to a resistant soldering iron, and I am extremely heavily invested in the Fast Tracks track fixtures, mainly because I want repeatable reliability and repeatable standards on my product. If I get a request for something custom, I can hand build a turnout off of paper just fine, but I wanted repeatable standards in my products, and that's where I really like the Fast Track jigs that they have available. Next slide, please. Just more random pictures of ground zero downstairs, and it's usually not that clean. I am honestly a messy builder. I have tools everywhere. I have supplies everywhere, but I kind of clean it up for pictures. I'm usually working on one, if not two, or maybe three orders at one time. More ground zero. I just purchased a 3D printer for some future projects. Got a photo booth to take better pictures. And of course, I got my dogs that keep me company. Usually about 3 o'clock in the morning. They remind me it's time to go to bed. That I got a job to look out for. On the left side, of course, I'm using the Fast Tracks tools, but I created some handmade fixtures to hold them, so I can use two hands on the file and get a quicker and more accurate filing of the rail. So I don't have to hold the tool in one hand and file with the other hand. And the other advantage is I don't get the metal slivers in my hand or get burn marks from the file rubbing against my skin. So that was a really handy idea that I came up with. And, I do plan on making something similar available that people can purchase from the company if they want to. But it's just something I came up with. Next slide. I handle multiple scales. I started off with S gauge and 0130, and it has rapidly expanded to S scale high rail, SN3, O2 rail, 013, 030, 012, and H013. And I'm actually working on an extremely complex N scale custom project right now. I don't have any photos of it, but it involves double slips and crossings and normal turnouts. And the customer wants everything to be one piece with all the guardrails and the frog rails to be blended together. Extremely custom handmade job. And when I get that done, I'll be sure to take a picture and share it with the group, because that has taken me, it's taken me months to get the parts in and get the pieces ready and come up with a plan on how to do it. But one thing you will note is you don't see HO scale on here. I have a handshake deal with Jeff Otto of Oak Hill Models. I reached out to him for some advice, and I have a handshake deal with him that I will not do HO scale. If I do get a request for HO scale, I'll refer them to Jeff Otto. And if he turns it down and hands it back to me, well, then, I have his blessing to go ahead and work on the project. So typically I will not do HO scale, but I do have the tooling for it. And next slide, please. Rail codes. All my rail comes from microengineering. I personally believe it's the industrial standard as far as rail goes. Nickel, silver, unweathered. I can work with all the different rail codes available. And if somebody really wants code 138, as long as they provide the rail, I can work with the code 138 to make their project complete. Next, please. Product quality. Everything is done with fixtures or paper templates. Nothing fancy here. It's essentially a Fast Tracks printed circuit board built turnout. But I have my own personal standards that I believe that I want my turnouts to meet certain standards, and if they don't meet the standards, well, then I'm not going to push them out to the customer, because I don't think that's right. So if it's not done right, it's not going out the door. One of the things that I have done with the printed circuit board method of building a turnout is I've added hidden power jumpers to provide power to the extended frog rails. Typically, those rails do not receive power. I figured out a way to reliably provide power to those rails, so we don't have to drop down an extra set of power feeds to them. Next slide, please. Current projects that are available is your standards, all different types of switches, three-ways, crossings, stubs, point derails, and anything custom that you can imagine. I'll review the request and I'll figure out one way or another how to make it work for you. Nothing is off limits. I have no problem. Send me your request and I'll either figure it out or politely let you know why I can't do it. It's too complex. I'll let you know why. But I haven't met a challenge I haven't been able to meet just yet. Next slide, please. Just more current project pictures that I have. I do make three-way stub turnouts, either as a kit or as what I like to call ready to drop in. Either way is just fine. Curved turnouts, any radiuses that you want, any scale that you want, any rail code, just let me know what you want and I'll be more than happy to make them for you. One thing I have not seen modeled, previously is a point derail. So I just kind of like altered the rail within the turnout fixture, and I just made a point derail out of it. And as of today, I have sold one of them. But I think it's just something that's unique and different that's not typically modeled on any railroad. Next slide, please. Options. Communicate to me what you want. If I can give you the item that you want, that's what's important for me. The routine options are, if you just want the skeleton format, or if you want the ties but not included, or if you want the ties attached, which way do you want the throw bar to be? The basic electrical upgrade, that's where I was talking about the frog rails having power to them. And then the full electrical upgrade is another option where essentially on the bottom of the frog, there's a 3-wire cable, and you drill an extra hole underneath the frog at the right location and drop that 3-wire cable down, hook that up to your, hook 2 of the wires up to your DCC bus or your DC bus, hook the other wire up to the frog for the phase changing of the frog. And then the entire turnout from one end to the other is completely powered. You can paint it. It's not going to affect the power to the turnout. As long as the top of the rails are clean, the entire turnout from one end to the other will have 100% power to it. And it's fully DCC compatible. Next slide, please. There's a picture of, it's a fuzzy picture, but we all know that the electrical path is carried by the printed circuit board on the top side, but I flipped the turnout over and I've got little hidden wire jumpers from the bottom of the rail to the bottom of the PC board, which carries power over to its sister rail on the other side. So that's my technique of carrying power over to the frog rails. It's not a secret. I offer that information freely to anybody that wants to use it and make improvements on their printed circuit board built turnouts. And then just another explanation of the full electrical upgrade. Essentially, you get a 3-wire cable underneath the frog that connects up to your bus line and your frog device, polarity device, and then the turnout's 100% powered. That's been a very popular option because it reduces the amount of installation time to near zero. And some folks are afraid or intimidated by drilling a hole next to the rail and possibly damaging the rail or damaging the turnout, and then having to solder to the rail. They rather just go with the option where it's already done and everything is completely hidden after the ballast is applied. That's just an option. Other options I don't think I have listed here is if you want extended rails on either end of the turnout. Normally I'll trim them off to a certain length, but if you want the rails to be extra long, I'll leave the extra rail on there for you. Especially if you have a turnout that's going straight into a relatively sharp curve, having the rail joint somewhere other than right next to the turnout, it provides a smoother transition into and out of the turnout. And that's also been a very popular option where I just leave extra rail on all 3 ends of the turnout, especially when you look at Dennis Carroll's Otter Creek and Rio Grande. I left some extra rail on the turnouts for him, and he was able to use that to make a crossover between the 2 turnouts without having a small section of rail in between them. He was able to essentially just trim the rail to length and have 2 turnouts right next to each other and have a perfect crossover. So it's just another option, all depending on what the customer wants. Next slide, please. Stub turnouts. I started making stub turnouts. On the left is a kit with no ties, and there's a little bit of work to be done by when it's being installed, but I do provide instructions on what I recommend on how to do it. But it's fairly straightforward, and a novice can put them together. The advanced stub turnout, what I call the ready to drop in, it's essentially a 1-piece stub turnout, whether it's a 2-direction turnout or in the picture, that's a 3-way stub turnout. And one of the things that you do need to know is that both ends of the stub turnout are mechanically held together and electrically held together. So if you go for the full electrical upgrade where you just have the cables coming down, the entire turnout, once again, is 100% electrically connected and DCC compatible. And it is a little bit fragile until you get it installed, because the mechanical connection that I have underneath the ties, obviously it can't be too huge or too large of a diameter because it just won't work. But with just some tender love and care, this turnout can be installed fairly easy and fairly quickly, and be 100% reliable right out of the box. You just got to be careful with it because it is a little bit on the delicate side, but after it's installed, it's solid as a rock. Next slide, please. Let's talk about some of the custom work. There was a gentleman on Facebook that wanted O scale 125 and O 130 code 100, 45-degree crossing. and everyone chimed in with their opinions, which were basically, it can't be done the way you want it. And I chimed in and said, I'll take on the challenge. And we negotiated. It's like, okay, and this is the product that I came up with. Unfortunately, I made the 45-degree crossing the wrong direction. So now that I had a practice piece under my belt, I redid it in the correct orientation, and it turned out a lot better. But essentially, this is exactly what the customer wanted. 125 in the O scale and code 100 in the O130 side, and it's completely custom. I'm not going to give all my secrets away, but it's exactly what the customer wanted, and everybody was happy with it once it got all done. So custom work, I love a challenge. I love the challenge of custom. Next, please. More stuff is, the I want this category. Okay, I want ON30, some, ridiculously tight, turnout, or ridiculously, tight Y turnout. This is what I want. I'm running very small equipment. Okay, not a problem. I'll make it happen for you. The other was, I need a duplicate of a damaged turnout. Customer bought a turnout from somebody, and it didn't last very long. And so he gave me the pieces of it, and I was able to copy it, and the customer was happy. Again, like I was explaining about, custom options, is I knew with the customer that the turnout was going to be in a very sharp radius. So I left all the extra rail on all three ends of the turnout. That way there weren't any rail joints, right near the turnout that were going to cause any problems. So he got it installed. He says it works fine. He's happy with it. And so I can duplicate something that's not working right for you. I can redesign it and remanufacture it so it does work better for you. Next slide, please. Empire Trackworks is future products. I have just made the announcement, I think it was like last week, that the S-scale code 100 flex track, which is what's pictured here, the final design has been officially approved. And so I am in the process of, I am capable of taking orders for the S-scale code 100 flex track. All the other scales and rail codes, those flex track pieces are being designed and developed by 3DP Trains. David, if I remember correctly, I may be wrong on that, but I believe David is his name. He's my CAD and 3D printer guy that's doing all the design elements. And last week, Jamie did his review of the S Code 100. And thank you, Jamie, for those kind remarks that you gave me. And we are continuing to develop the rest of the flex track. The narrow gauge flex track will not have tie plates on it. It will still have the ties, or it will still have the spike details in black, but it won't have the tie plate details on there, since most narrow gauges didn't have tie plates on them anyway. And if everything goes well, then I can pursue, offering the flex track and dual gauge. And I do plan on having matching ties for the turnouts that we produce. So that way I have a complete system of track, not only the flex track, but the turnouts themselves. Everything will be compatible with other manufacturers, but I want Empire Trackworks to have a system of track that is reliable. And one of the things about my flex track, or Empire Trackworks' flex track, is that it's meant to flex. It's not too stiff. It's not too loose. It's engaged. And it's flexible. It's, you can try, different radiuses that you want. And, if you need to, if you're just playing around with it, you can return it back to its normal straight position fairly easy without too much difficulty. And, I think that's a huge positive for my brand of flex track. Here's Here, there is one major downside to running a small business with the family and a regular job is that my website is completely out of date. That's not the fault of my web designer. That's my fault for not putting the time into it. But I do not have all the updated products available listed on the website, and the prices, unfortunately, are also outdated. But everyone's been pretty acceptable to getting notice that there has been changes to the prices, and we negotiate back and forth and come up with a fair price for depending on what the order is, and everything is okay. The easiest way to order from Empire Trackworks, just send me an email. The email's right there, empire-trackworks@outlook.com. Just send me an email, and that gets the ball rolling. And it doesn't matter where I'm at, in my day-to-day activities. I check, email 2-3 times a day, and I'll reply back well within 24 hours. And I don't collect any money until the detailed invoice is approved. I want to know exactly what you want. That way I can provide exactly what you're expecting. And I don't collect money until, we come up with an agreement on what you want and what the cost is going to be. And to keep things fair with all my customers, orders are built in sequence established by the payment date. I believe that's fair with the amount of orders that I have, the amount of scales I'm dealing with, the amount of available time that I have. I had to come up with a plan to make it fair, and that was the only way I can do it. But I do keep everybody updated on their orders. Typically on Fridays, I update the Facebook page with a status of all the orders, which ones have been shipped, which ones are waiting for raw materials to come in, and where you stand in the build queue. So if anybody needs to check up on see where they're at on their order, check on the Facebook page. I also, since I'm on call 24/7 with the railroad, I answer the phone all day long. If you got a question, call me. If I'm not physically at work, I will answer the phone, whether it's 2:00 in the morning or 12:00 at noon. I will answer the phone and discuss your order with you. So I am available by phone 24 hours a day. I have enough orders right now where I'm absolutely booked up at least through early November, if not mid-December. If my projections are correct and everything is relatively calm with working on the real railroad, I'm pretty much booked up through the early November at this point. And I do my best to keep customers informed on the status of their order, when it's going to get started and when to expect it to be shipped out. Okay. But next slide, please. And there's how you can get in touch with me. Don't forget the dash in the on the website, or the dash on the email address. And you look out for me on Facebook, and open the floor to questions.
Any questions for Alan? We're running a little late here, so let's.
I talk a lot.
Well, I think you did a great job. Sounds like you got your hands full, and I think what's really neat is the quality work and the emphasis on quality. And I know you've got all these products, but I think there's a real need for ON30 Flex Track and somebody to keep Pico honest, to be honest with you.
Well, I know Microengineering has ON30 Flex Track, but yeah. I looked around for ON3 Flex Track. Unless you find someone selling it, you're not going to find anything new from the manufacturer.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Pretty much the same, if I remember correctly, with the SN3 Flex Track. Unless you find someone with a basement supply, there's nothing new out there. So those are the immediate voids that I want to fill.
Alan, I have a question. It's Greg. Have you thought of doing any ON18?
No, I haven't thought about it, but I can do it. I mean, rail is rail, PC tie, PC tie. Just how far apart is the gauge? You know, so that's easy for me.
Thank you.
That's a rapidly growing scale. Well, thank you, Alan. And we've had two great new presenters on today, which is terrific. We're trying to expand the show into different scales and different things and different people, and appreciate you coming on. And
Well,
remember,
thank you for inviting me, Tom.
yeah, and your segment will be broken out in a couple days and put on YouTube independently as a new tracks. We'll see how many views you get, but it looks like you've got a winner here, and best of luck going forward and get some sleep, eh?
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Well, we've got one final presentation that would be mine on the Brennan's Garfield substation, finishing that up. And let me get that going, and then we'll have our close. Hold on one moment here. Share. There we go. Okay, view slideshow. Okay, so this is part 2 and the conclusion of the Garfield electric substation. This is a new O-scale laser cut kit from Brennan's Model Railroading, our sponsor of the New Tracks Live. And as I said in the beginning of the show, this kit lists for $159.95. If you put on the NEW TRX, you'll get a $20 discount and pay only $139.95. Now, I'm up to presentation number 75 on kit building, or not kit building, scratch building, and some kits in there. And I have to tell you, not because he's our sponsor, but in all honesty, this is a very nice kit at a great value. The instructions are written step by step. If you've never built a kit before, or a kit, I would give this a medium. There's easy kits, medium kits, really hard kits. This is probably medium kit, craftsman kit. Everything fits precise like a watch with this. And you do want to follow the instructions. I got a little arrogant and was telling Dennis offline that I was going to throw the directions away. That would have been a big mistake. There's a few construction techniques in here that are just wonderful and I've never seen before, and a couple almost got by me. So I read the instructions. I even had to call Dennis for some clarification, and you know how many of these things I've built. So it's easy and it's challenging at the same time, but at the very end, you're going to get a museum quality piece when you're all done. Just to review, there's quite a lot to this kit. I show this again because I want you to understand the value in this kit. He bags everything, lists all the contents. You only open what you need. You follow along through the instructions. You open up bag by bag. There were no mistakes really on this kit. Everything just is watch-like, Swiss watch precision. It's just amazing. This is the cupola, and this is when I put this together. I called Dennis up and I said, I was just flabbergasted at the precision. I know it's laser cut and I'm a scratch builder and I don't have access to a laser, but just because something's laser cut doesn't mean it fits together this well. So there's a lot of unique construction ideas going on here, double walls. Everything is, he's using a basswood that has a 3M pre-adhesive on it. So things go together mostly without glue. I super glued. I built this foundation up. This is from the kit. It's basically 4 pieces of 45-degree. Oh no, actually they integrate. They have a joint here. I super glued this together and I used some wood filler to fill in the fill this in. It was actually plastic filler, Tamaya plastic filler. I put it on there with my finger, let it dry, and then I sanded it flush. I painted this a concrete color with polyscale paint. Then I built this up. It basically fits so well together, it falls together. I use super glue to put it all together. Then I super glued it to the base. There's another view. I mean, look at it's just so precise. It's unbelievable. And it just fit, it dropped right in there. You know, no fiddling, nothing. It just fit perfectly. Of course, you have to build this square, but this basically, this base went together because it's jointed. It went together perfectly square. Before I glued it, I put a modeler square on the corner. Then I used a very thin super glue on the corner. And then I did one corner at a time with my square, but I had to do no adjustments. And once I built this base up, I painted it with the poly scale. I wanted to pre-paint it before I dropped this cupola on. Reminds me of back when I was teenager building model airplanes. This is similar construction. This is these are also I spray painted these with a green satin Rust-Oleum, and then I cut them out, and then I peeled the adhesive off. If you see here, see the 3M adhesive? I just peeled that back, and then I stuck these on. Before you do that, you put on the acetate, which you can see here. Oh, sorry, this mouse a little sensitive. There's the windows there, the acetate material. Everything's by laminate construction, so there's multiple layers. It's goof proof, basically. All these fuzzies and dust went away. I blew it with a compressed air can and got rid of all the dust, but it's just a very precise construction. Now, I didn't want to detail the inside, and I took a note from last week's show. Somebody said, don't spray the outside of the windows. I think Dennis himself said, don't spray the outside of the windows with your dull coat. Leave the outside of the windows shiny like glass would be. And if you want to dull up the window so you can't see through it, just spray the inside. Well, that's what I did. And so I just masked it off with painter's tape. Then I sprayed those windows. It gave me this effect here. And then the roofs, talk about precision. This fit perfectly on here, and it only goes on one way. This bulkhead is not precisely in the middle. And that's by design, so you can only put these on one way. Oh, this thing's really jumping around. So I just super glued that on. Then there's looking at the inside of it. I put a little bead of super glue, thicker super glue around the perimeter of this. It's not going anywhere. This is an up close of the tar paper. It's a little cattywampus. It's actually parallel and perpendicular on the roof. But what I did is I put pan pastels on there. I used a light gray, medium gray, and black. And then I hit it with dull coat, and another happy accident. It looks exactly like a tar paper that has fine cinders on it. I took this close up to show that. So basically, he gives you these strips of cardstock, and they're perfectly flat black, and he has lines on there to ensure you get the correct, so they're evenly spaced, and everything fit perfectly. And then when I had it all on there, of course, it was just flat black, the cardstock. And then I weathered it, and you could see the brush lines or the chalk lines and things from the pan pastels. But when I hit it with the dull coat, which I hit everything with, another happy accident. I mean, it looks exactly like somebody sprinkled cinders on a tar roof. It was just an amazing effect. And here's the base from last week. I left this was that mistake I made. I thought he has a piece that runs on the inside, four pieces that run on the inside of this perimeter of the building, and I thought that was the foundation. That's why I called it up. I said, that's not sized correctly. Am I doing something wrong in the foundation? I made it to look like limestone. He said, if you would read the instructions, you'd see that that was for the top of the roof. That goes on first, and then you put this cardstock piece and glues up against the base of this perimeter. I said, oh, well, now I had a choice to make, either to make these red brick, just repaint it, or leave it limestone. I thought I'd leave it this limestone color so that they just carried this color on from this limestone, what I'm calling limestone trim. And also, so there's a view of that look, the happy accident with the pan pastels and the dull coat. I think that looks fantastic. He gives you a aggregate, and that's not shown in this photo, but I put Elmer's glue down here with a brush, and then I sprinkled the aggregate on here and finished the model off. These two smokestacks are a PVC type tubing piping, and I just sprayed them flat black, and I'll weather that rust. He also has a base for each one of these, so they just don't sit on the roof. There's two bases that fit there. This building will be lighted, and once you put the lights in there, you'll see how neat it looks when you have a frosted glass effect. So you'll have a nice, even lighting situation without having to show interior. There's another view. This is the bad side of town here. I took some liberties here with his permission, and very attractive kit. It worked fine from the early 1920s all the way into contemporary. It can be repurposed for many things. I wanted to show, I don't have a picture of it. Doc asked how I got this brick effect. If you recall, that's not easy without doing an expanded view of this. Hold on a moment, see if we can do this. View. Zoom. There we go. Zoom in. Okay, let me do this the old school way here. Just give me a moment. Okay. Yeah, can everybody see what I'm talking about here? See the detail on the brick? See, it looks like actual brick. What that is the grout material. There's some grout material still left on the brick. And then I went back and I stained that grout material with my acrylic. If you remember my three-step process in doing brick like this, these are laser cut brick that are basically smooth as delivered. So I hit it with Tamiya primer, a gray primer. Then I sprayed it with a obnoxious orange, a cinnamon Krylon paint. And then I used this acrylic medium that's like a rust color. It's this color here. And you cover all the brickwork and then wipe it with a cloth, not paper, with a cloth. And then I put this grout material on there. It's a gotta remember the name of it, Richards, I believe. But anything, a spackling, like a light spackling compound would work, or a drywall material would work. Drywall cement, not cement, I don't know what you call it. Anything that has like a plaster type look to it, I paint that on there, and then I wipe that away with a sock. And then if you just leave a little of that on the surface of the brick, and then go back and then go back and I spray it with the dull coat, and then I go back with that acrylic medium, which could be an acrylic paint, and I color the highlights, which would be like a white, like this. This is untouched here. This corner here, see the paint there, or the white? This is painted with that acrylic, and this is not. So if you leave just a little behind and then hit it with the acrylic, you get this look. And honest to God, when you look at this up close, it looks like brick. I mean, that's what brick looks like. So it was basically a happy accident, but it's a real nice technique. See, it's all that is residue of the mortar sealed and painted. Because if you just try to paint it without hitting it with dull coat, you'll dissolve it. So it's a fourth and fifth step. So step number one, I prime the laser cut material with Tamiya gray non-filling primer. Then I sprayed it with Krylon cinnamon paint, an obnoxious orange. Then I used this acrylic, basically thick paint. You could use any acrylic rust-colored paint, and you paint it right over the orange Krylon, and then wipe it off with a rag, a sock I used. Then I I use dull coat pretty much between every step, just to make sure I don't get any cross mixing of colors. Then the mortar mix is put on there. I use this Richardson's material. I showed it in the last video, but you could use a spackling compound or a watered down plaster. I don't want to use paint. You could, but I think you get a little more, especially in O scale, it looks more realistic if it's some sort of plaster-like material. Then I seal that with dull coat, leaving some of it on, like here. And then I go back, seal it with dull coat, and then I go back with that acrylic color, and I restain this stuff, and that's the look you get. So, and then I hit it all with dull coat and finish up with some pan pastel weathering, like here. So, I hope that answers the question on how I did that.
It does, Tom. I've got another question and a comment. My question would be, do you think that happy accident process would translate to other types of materials, or do you think it's pretty much only going to work on a wood type material? And the comment would be, I think a happy accident's a little understated. I think that you might have just created one of the most amazing mastering techniques we've ever seen as far as brick. I would definitely consider doing that forever.
Yeah, I'm not patting myself on the back because it was an accident, but I was just, I mean, if I'd have to call up last week's presentation, had that close up of the corner there, I was just basically amazed at the look. It looked like individual O scale bricks were stacked up there. So it's a technique that that's easy to do because it was an accident. Worked very well. The whole key to most of what I do is putting dull coat in between about everything I do, so I don't get cross bleeding of paints and materials and colors. I've pontificated on that on all my scratch builds, and yeah, and you don't have to use that Richardson's mortar mix. You can use spackling compound. You could probably use white paint. I just like the texture you get and the grittiness. You wouldn't get that grittiness using paint on the surface of those bricks. So you'll want to use like a spackling compound or Richardson's mortar mix, and yeah, give it a shot. It's really not so difficult, and it does look really neat. Yeah, so yeah, that's how I'm going to do things going forward. Yeah.
Sure. Do you think it would work on a plastic model or another type of medium other than a laser cut wood
Yeah,
model?
well, yes, because this brick, this material that he laser cut I can't remember whether he had laser board but when I was done spraying it with the Krylon, it had like a plastic like finish to it. It was a semi gloss, a matte finish, and that would simulate plastic. So the answer would be yes, you could use it on plastic, so long as you had something for the paint to bite to or the mortar to bite to, and that's where the dull coat comes in. As we learned on the very first presentation this evening, when he did the flash from the silver paint to the matte uh, on the silver, same issue. So long as you have something for these acrylics to bite to, yes, it would work on plastic, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I urge you to take a crack at this kit if you have an O scale layout and you're looking for a high quality structure at a great price. You're not going to be disappointed. The limited discount, $20 off, and an already what I think is very competitively priced kit for what you get. $139.95 plus shipping is a hell of a deal. And check it out and support our sponsor of the show. So that concludes this evening's show. I don't think we have Father Ron here this evening. So if you'd like to run that video, Phil, and then we'll do the caboose and off we go.
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationship with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you, Father Ron, master modeler yourself. And now we have the Detroit video from the Detroit area. Phil, it's all yours.
So this is another layout from the NMRA convention. This is a excellent HO layout. So I'll leave this up for a second so you can all read it before we start the video. You can get an idea of the space and kind of the overall layout. The 65% scenery completion I thought was an interesting comment when you see the video.
Well, I thought it was Detroit. Would you tell us a little about this, Phil?
Yeah, it's an HO layout. Tim's modeling, obviously, I think the early 20s, 30s, but just very well done all around, and it almost speaks for itself as you look at it. But just every part of the scenery and structures is very well done.
I think it's amazing.
And it's also, as you notice when you do see the fascia, he actually does operations with it as well. So, it's not just a pretty face, it actually is an operating layout.
What was the overall size again of this thing?
I think it was 35 by 28 or 33 by 28. So it's about 750 square feet.
I mean, this is easily on par with the Franklin in Manchester or Howard
It's a
Lane.
very, very well done layout.
Hand-painted background. Looks like an abundance of scratch builds and maybe FSM kits hidden in there. And it's a early fall scene, which isn't modeled so typically, but with all the color, I think it should be.
Yeah, this is one of those layouts you could spend a couple of hours just looking at all the scenes and all the detail.
And everywhere you look, there's depth to the scene. Everything around the buildings, weathering. You have to admit these are inspiring. It's almost breathtaking. Absolutely stunning. Yeah.
I love the detail on the cars also. They're all very well detailed. And like, you know, looks like a 20s, late teens, early 20s kind of time frame.
The neat thing about doing these wharf scenes is you can do some cross modeling and feature boats and ships in your modeling. And this is HO scale.
Yes.
Twice as hard as O scale. It's amazing.
There's so many scenes in this layout to photograph.
It just never ends. I mean, look at that scene. That's a jeez.
And this was his crew lounge. And a really nice workshop.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating this evening, and we had 2 new presenters, which was great. And if you want to make a presentation, as Phil said in the very beginning of the program, or maybe pre-show, we're looking to assemble watch me builds or build alongs. If you're interested in that, contact Phil or myself, and we'll track down a kit maker, maybe get you a free kit to make. All you need to do is ask us, and we'll put that together. You need only take photographs as you build along, and we'll put together the PowerPoint, and you just say the magic words, next slide, next slide, next slide, and accomplishes multiple things. And as I have to say it again, because I learned so much this evening from our new presenters. Like Jim Kello used to say, if you didn't learn something this evening, you weren't paying attention. There's something here on New Tracks for new modelers and master modelers, and that's what's unique about our show. So we'll see you next Wednesday between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern, and have a good evening.